2015 BMW 428i. Issue is when you start it, the wipers are always on. The air conditioning doesn't work. Actually, before we do that, look at Evan over here fixing his bike tire. Say hi, buddy. So again, 2015 428i, wipers are always stuck on. The HVAC air conditioning unit here in the center doesn't light up. None of this stuff lights up in the center here. The blinkers don't work. The intermittent stuff like that. Alright, so what I want to do here is I got the key in. I'm going to turn... Well, I'm going to start it here. Let me set the camera down and start it up to show you what's going on. So I started it. Wipers are going on by themselves. Blinkers don't work at all. The central unit here, air conditioning, nothing powers on. Just got a cruise control malfunction. Just part of this multi-function switch. So what we're going to do, we turn it off here. Turn key on engine off. So you got the engine light on right there. That means the computer's powering up. And I'm using the Maxxis Ultra with my VCMI. And of course the wipers are still on. We're going to do a full system scan real quick. And then, that's a bad glare. And then see what's going on. Alright, so connected. So we're going to use the BMW program here. Turn these lights off. Maybe don't glare so bad. Pulled the VIN. It's an F36 chassis. 428i, 2015. So we'll run through the Untitled Ultra, download everything we can, and then we'll see where we need to go from there. Rumor has it somebody else's shop looked at it and there was a 5-amp fuse that was blown under the dash. Not sure, but we got to find that if that's what's going on. Maybe these modules, you know, default to wipers on, the HVAC's not working. Who knows, right? So we'll have to do some checks here. All right, so we're gonna hit fault scan. So this is the topology. You can go to list or you can go to topology. This just shows what module or node is on which network. You know, if it's K-CAN, high-speed CAN, FlexRay, depend, right? This shows you all this stuff on here. So we're going to let it do its full scan. Alright, so I did its full system scan. We're going to go to report. And there's 2 in the engine module, 1 in the ABS, 1 in the instrument cluster, 16 in the front electronic module, 1 in the fuel pump module, 1 in the rear electric module, 3 in the chassis module, 1 in the HVAC module, 2 in the central gateway. So get an idea here. The engine module, no message request, heat and air conditioning system, receiver from Digital Motor Electronics, and engine oil pressure, temperature, plausibility, pressure too high before engine start. I think this is the one that we're concerned with, not this one, and then ABS, SEL interface operation wiper switch, signal invalid, instrument cluster, signal steering column switch operation invalid, the front electronic control module, steering column switch cluster for your K-line, 16 steering column switch cluster, the message for the K-line, multi-function steering wheel, missing landslide, voltage terminal, yeah, right here, voltage terminal 30F fuse F10 defective. If I remember right, F10 is a 5-amp fuse. So I did pull some schematics. Not that I don't know if I pulled the right ones. I was just in BMW service data, which is $30 for 24 hours. And if you look here, F10 is a 5 amp under the front electronic module, and it looks like it's in the right footwell. So there's 7. You'd have to, you know, count out. There's 7 and 14 between. There's 10, obviously. So we can look at that, and that's the one that looks like it's probably blown, but we'll verify that. Welcome light, repeat lock, active, exterior mirror, under voltage, radio, remote control, garage door, LIN master, no comm. Because this, you know, this uses, I would think it's got high-speed CAN, medium-speed CAN, K-line, LIN bus. It's got all kinds of different, you know, network stuff, which we can scope out with this as well. No message from control water valves. No message from auxiliary air conditioning functions. Electronic fuel pump. This one, this guy's had before, current low. I believe he has anyways. Rear electronic module. No message from the front. Climate control. Chassis management. SEL integrated. SZL interface signal invalid. Message cruise control. Signal cruise control. The heating, air conditioning system. Communication up possible with integrated automatic heat and AC system. Central gateway. Yeah, they're using flex rate comm too. Huh. Anyways, there's a ton of codes on here. So what I'm going to do is erase everything, rerun it, start over, and see what comes back, and go from there to troubleshoot this, and then go after that fuse. Well, before I do that, there's one thing you can do. You can hit Intelligent Diagnostics, and this gives you, like, there's TSBs for this stuff. Windshield wipers switch on by themselves, cannot be switched off. There's a TSB, it looks like, right? There's all kinds of, depending on what's, you know, codes you have. Of course, I think it's because of that fuse blowing, but they do. There is a service bulletin that's they're talking about. I mean, we may have to look at this. I don't know yet, so we'll take a look here in a little bit. All right, so let's erase all these codes. Let's erasing them now. And see what comes back. Now, the service bulletin for the wipers always being on, that's it when the vehicle's moving. But I don't think we have an issue with that JME box they're talking about in there. I think we have an issue because, well, there's no power and a fuse keeps, sounds like the fuse keeps blowing, but we got to figure out why and if that is the actual case. All right, so I erased everything, but what keeps coming back is you go to report, to go an overview report. Shut this light off. Let's go down. Engine, oil pressure. Well, we haven't ran it yet, so we don't have that other code yet, but I'm not concerned with that one right now. But ABS module, SCL interface operation, wiper switch, signal invalid, and then the front electronic module, which sounds like it's that module. We'll have to look in service data, but I'd imagine it's that module right there that's not powering up, that whole front display there. So, what do you need? Trying to get his bike fixed. There you go. You got it. So now, the front electronic module, K-line message, column, switch cluster, live counter, multifunction steering wheel, missing LIN slave, voltage terminal, that's the same fuse. So that's one we got to look at. No comm. But again, if you're not getting power to it, or ground, in this case power, you're gonna have a ton of these codes because you're not gonna have communication, no messages and stuff. So that's what we need to go after first. You can go into the control unit, and you can go in here and go to, well, actually, let's go back to auto scan, and then let's go to right here. It's just easier to get into the module. And you can hit trouble codes in here. Those wipers are driving me insane. But here's all your codes, right? Here's your freeze frame data. Like, you know, for the fuse, it tells you how many miles it threw it at. And then you can go in here to, like, if it supports it. Where did that fuse one go? Right here. Intelligent Diagnostics. Sometimes it'll give you oscilloscope readings if you have to go that far, depending on what it is. DTC analysis. Says the fault description. The fault code entry serves for the monitoring of the fuse of the front KL30F. Fault monitoring fuse 1 of KL front. Setting conditions. Let me go over all this stuff. Yeah, it tells you how. Check fuse and replace. Yeah, so we'll take that with a grain of salt, but there's all kinds of stuff in this Ultra. Yeah, F10 Fuse. Repair assist. I'm not going to go through that right now. I'm just going to look at the actual fuse, but you can go to live data if they're, you know, read all this stuff. So, yeah, then you can go to active test. All kinds of stuff in here. So we're going to go look for that fuse next. Before we do that, though, I want to show you one other thing. So you can go to programming. You know, we went to auto scan for all your modules. You can go to individual control units. You can go to service, depending on what you're doing. Hot functions, you know, keys and stuff like that, immobilize your stuff. But you can go to programming and actually you can program from this Maxisys Ultra through the, you know, it's got a J box, J2534 pass-through built into that. So if you had to get a new module programming, you can do it through the Ultra for Beamer and Mercedes. Now, other vehicles, you have to use your laptop, obviously, with that J2534 pass-through. But the Beamers and the Mercedes, you can do it right through the scan tool from their servers, which is pretty cool. So, of course, it'll tell you to read all this. We're not going to do any programming. I mean, we may have to later if it's a bad module. We don't know yet, so we'll take a look. Alrighty, another thing before I start messing with that fuse is I hooked up a battery power supply. Not a battery charger, but a battery power supply. And the reason is because when I'm troubleshooting, and if you're programming, you got to maintain battery voltage because it will cause major issues when programming, and when you're troubleshooting, it'll cause issues. So I have it set to 14.2, 14.3 volts. It's going to maintain power in the car. I could leave it on all day like that. That thing handles up to 100 amps, but I use it for programming mostly, but I also use it for troubleshooting for situations like this where it could take a while. You want the key on, engine off, you know, your battery's going to get weak. This maintains it. So, also another cool thing about this Ultra, I kind of feel like this is an Ultra advertisement, but for the scan tool anyways, I don't know, I just really like the scan tool, I guess, is you go to bus inspection, which we may have to do this later, but back in the day, or would use a breakout box to check the network, you know, can high, can low, LIN bus, flex ray, whatever it has, breaking out the DLC connector, diagnostic link connector. But the BCMI does it all through the scan tool. So we're on high speed CAN, pin 6, low speed CAN is pin 14. I can view the waveform, and there you go. It's a good square waveform. Just a real quick check. That's CAN high. You go to CAN low, right there. It's using the oscilloscope function. Now you can pick different pins if you wanted to. Like you could go to settings and pick different pins. Check your LIN bus, flex rate, whatever, right? You can do serial decoding. There's all kinds of stuff. I don't need to go down that road yet with this car, but just something that we are aware of that we could possibly need to do. All right, since it called out that F10 fuse, if you look, F10 is a 5 amp fuse, terminal 30F, front electronic module. All right, I got this from the BMW website. Like I said, I paid 30 bucks for 24 hours. I'm gonna have to probably pay another 30 because, well, I lost access last night because I got tied up with some other cars. But, I mean, 60 bucks for some service data, probably well worth it. To get this car fixed compared to taking it to the dealer. Beamer used to have an actual, or not Beamer, BMW there's a website out there, newtis.info, but BMW shut that down, right? Well, because they're not making money, so now you have to pay. Anyway, so F10, it looks like it's in the right footwell, because if you look at this picture, front of the car is that way, a little arrow, the right side, there's F7, there's 1, there's 8, so 10 would be right in there somewhere, and it's up under there. So we got to pull that apart, look at that fuse, and that's what we need to do next, which we need to go, and Evan's got a mess. Fixing his bike, needs to get a tube. So we need to go over here, pull that plastic liner out there, and take a look. Alright, so the front electronic module, or the FEM they call it, it's not that, that's the display unit for it. But the module is actually back here. So what you do is you pop off this plastic cover, that plastic cover, this plastic cover here, there's a screw in there and some clips. And then you can see the fuses in there. And there is the 5 amp fuse right there. We're gonna go ahead and pull that one out and see if it's blown. All right, so I pulled it out of that spot down there. But if you look up there, it says, God, where did it say that? This is the FEM right there. Trying to get my finger in there. Front electronic module. So that is the module, but the fuse, if you look, it is blown. See, it's broken in the center there. So that is the fuse F10. So if we put a new fuse in, I expect it to blow again. That's what we're going to try, and if it does, which it sounds like it's going to, because why is the fuse blowing, right? It shouldn't just blow. Well, obviously it's drawing more than 5 amps. So then we can put an amp clamp in there, see, get schematics, because this fuse feeds more than, because front electronic module, the FEM, fuse F10, 5 amp, it feeds other stuff on other schematics, which I'm going to have to get back into the BMW website to see what it's feeding and why it's blowing. So we'll get a fuse and go there next. Alright, so I got a brand new fuse here. You can see it's not blowing. Kind of hard to tell. See here in the light. Yeah, not blowing. Oh, focus. Come on, camera. 5 amps. So we're going to put that in. Go from there. So I put the new 5 amp fuse in. It's hard to see behind that carpet there, but you can see it there. Let's go ahead and turn power onto the car. Yeah, buddy, you're gonna help in a minute. Let me turn this on. Well, holy crap, that scared the crap out of me. I don't know if you heard, but Evan's like, why is it smoking? I put a 5 amp fuse in. I came around over here to start it. I didn't even touch nothing yet. And it was smoking at this front display. Right in here. Smoke was kind of bellowing out. I don't know if I got on camera. But I threw the camera down because I don't want to start this damn car on fire. We literally put the 5 amp fuse in. There's no power to the car. And then Evan says, why is it smoking? Well, I go over here and look. There's smoke coming out of this area by the defrost switches. So that's a pretty damn good clue of our short to ground, right? Of course, if I start that, it would have eventually, the fuse is eventually going to blow, right? Because it's a short to ground. It's going to be drawing more than 5 amps. But it was smoking right in here in this area. And none of this stuff lights up. So I went over there, ran over there, pulled the fuse out so the smoke would stop coming. Well, this is the issue right in here. So let's take that apart. But that scared the crap out of me. All right, so I noticed that these defrost buttons were like really sticky, and then this temperature button was like stuck, like something got spilled in there maybe, because this one moves a lot easier. This one, it's a lot stiffer, but it was like stuck. So we tried to loosen these up. We put that fuse in again, and then it started smoking out here, and we shut it. We pulled it out real quick. I mean, eventually it's going to blow that fuse, right? But if it's drawing that many amps, but something's wrong here. So I'm going to get this display unit out, unhook it, put the fuse in, make sure everything's good, and then whether we got to fix this or get a new one and program it and code it. But I believe that's our issue, obviously. It's a direct short to ground, but it's not drawing enough amps yet to blow that fuse. Probably was earlier, and eventually it will, but now this, whatever's going on in here is acting like the fuse right now. So I can definitely smell it. I had in for just a couple seconds. I came around the car, and like I said, I haven't seen smoke, and I was like, holy crap. Pulled it out real quick because we don't want to, you know, start nothing on fire. And the fuse is supposed to handle that, but if it's not drawing more than 5 amps in here, then obviously it'll cause that. So, or smoking in there. So we're going to find how to take this apart and then go from there. Right? All right, so I got Evan filming here so you can kind of watch what I'm doing. See, buddy? So I'm using my plastic tools here, and I'm just popping up under here very carefully so I don't scratch nothing. And I'm going to pull this all the way out, is what I'm going to do. All right, so now, just watch your hand on there. Okay. So I had to come over here and then use that plastic tool here and just be real careful. Pop those little metal clips loose. You're going to slide this out like this. Buddy. So I'm going to do now is I'm going to hook these wires and then move this out of the way. Hold the camera. Thank you. All right, so now, got it. So now I plug these 2 connectors. They just unsnap. Be very careful you don't break nothing. And then we got to get this little piece out down here to expose these screws. There's a T20 here, a T20 here, and then I believe one here and one here. Take these plastic tools very carefully. Just pop this down. This slides all the way, and then there's your T20 and your T20. And we're going to go ahead and remove this face unit and take a look and go from there. All right, so I took these 4 screws out. Like I said, they're T20s. And pop this off. But if you look, there's your CD player. But there's a lot of like little green crusties and corrosion, which that should not be there at all. But if you look on the back of this, it's back there too. I'm going to unplug that connector, plug the fuse back in, and then go from there and see where we're at. So let me... All right, so we got that unplugged. But like I said, if you look, there's a bunch of green crusties on that side where it was smoking. There's only 3 wires going to that face unit, right? And if you look, before I plug it in, the fuse is on this side here. It's all green crusties, and it's just nasty. And this is where it's getting real hot at. So be very careful with that. What I'm gonna do is put the fuse in, rerun checks on it, and if the short's gone, well, then we know what's in that unit and we can go from there. Alrighty, so I unplugged it. Now it could be the CD box too that's short now, maybe, and that's getting real hot there and then melting that plastic, and that's what we smelt. You know, this melting the plastic on that front control face, because this is kind of warm, which I don't know why it'd be warm. I haven't been using it. But that's the CD player. We'll take a look. But anyways, I got it running with that unplugged. No wipers on. Left blinker works. Right blinker works. Of course, we're not gonna have the AC because we unplugged that. But imagine everything's working, right? We can check that fuse again. And we can monitor it with an amp clamp if needed to with the oscilloscope. But we got to find out, is it this causing the problem now, or the front control face unit causing the problem? This isn't too warm, I guess, but if I turn the wipers on by hand here, just a quick wipe, courtesy wipe they call it. I don't know why they call it that, it sounds disgusting. But anyways, so yeah, that's good. Left blinker, right blinker. So that's all good. But obviously it was on this side here causing the issues. Yeah. Watch that plastic down there. So now we got to figure out if it's at this thing or the other thing. So what I can do now is I can monitor the amperage with the oscilloscope, I plug the front control face unit in, and then see where the short is at. But obviously we found the problem area anyway, so we need to go do some more troubleshooting and go from there. So I pulled the fuse out. It never blew because we have that front interface unplugged. As soon as I pull it out, look what happens. The wipers go all funky, right? So what we're going to do now is I'm going to put an amp clamp in there, watch it with my oscilloscope as we plug that in, and watch the amp draw so we can figure out where this problem is. So I'm going to have to use a guy like this. Let me get that set up. I'll use my VCMI box right here with the oscilloscope. We'll monitor the amperage and then see where the problem's at. You know, because I was like, well, there's a lot of green crusties on there. I don't think it's in that area. I mean, it could be, I guess. But maybe it's in this front control face here. I mean, it's got some liquid, like melted plastic. It's definitely not right. And there's a lot of green crusties down in there. I don't know if the camera picks it up or not, but. So I'm gonna get all that set up and then we'll go from there. All right, so now I got my amp clamp in here. Or fuse loop, I mean. Got to get the amp clamp. But I got the 5 amp fuse in that, so if something goes wrong, it'll still blow. Got my VCMI out there. And then what I'm going to do is grab my leads for my oscilloscope. I'm going to set these leads up right here. I'll grab this one right here. We'll set it up, get the amp clamp set up, and then so we can monitor amperage. All right. What are you doing, buddy? So now what I'm going to do is got my VCMI hooked up. So this is wireless, right? You can do Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. So I'm going to go to my measurement tab, go to oscilloscope. Sorry about the bad glare. Let me turn the lights off in here. Maybe it'll work out better. We got nothing smoking. That would be bad. So anyways, I got my scope set up here. I got to get it set up. So what I want to do is I want to go to my channel A. Come on, focus. Probe setting. I want a 65 amp clamp, current clamp right there. Yes, we got to zero it out. So I'm going to turn this on to the first setting here. Sorry, I'm trying to film and do it at the same time. The second setting would be this one. I'm going to go into the first setting. Let me go to a 1 second scale just to zero this out so I can see it. So I'm going to hit zero this out so it zeroes it. And then what I can do is it goes up to 20 amps, right? Let me zero it again. Right there. So it shouldn't draw more than 5 amps, right? Obviously, because that's what it's fused at. So we're going to watch this as we do some more tests. But before I do that, I got to charge my camera because that's about to die. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit play in my oscilloscope. I'll tell you when, buddy. It's playing on a 1 second division. I have my amp clamp set up, and if it was below 0, you would have to flip it around. But what I got now is I'm going to change my scaling to, well, let's just go to 5 amps. So it should never go above this, right? Let me turn this light off. Glare is so bad. So what I'm going to do now, I got the fuse in, the front module unplugged, and Evan's going to hold the brake. He's going to start it. Go ahead, buddy. So you can see the amperage jump up. That's the main action there, amperage, a little bit of interference. You could put a filter in there if we wanted to. So we can make, so nothing went above 5 amps. So that's good. Okay, here, go ahead and turn the left blinker on. Pull down. Okay, Now I'll do the right blinker. Now I'll go to the other side and hit the wipers. Hit the wiper button. The other side, buddy. Other side of the steering wheel. Pull it down once. Okay, let go. Do one more time. See a little bit of amperage draw there when he does it. Do one more time. Okay, do the blinker again, left or right. So you can see his other blinkers on. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to freeze this. Or actually, go ahead and turn the car off. Push it one more time. Okay, you're good. Hop out. So now if you look, if I rewind on my... I could put a measurement tab in here, but anyways, I'm only getting like, I don't know, the peak there of that. 270 milliamps, right? Because we don't care about that, because that's the delta, that's the change in Y. So you could go from here to there, right? So you're getting like 200 milliamps, roughly, which is very well respectable. So if I back up, so I'm backing up on these frames here. So there's two, and then here's one where we started the car, and we had a max of like up there 600 milliamps. Not even a little bit, 5/8 of an amp. So that's good. We should be well below that 5 amp max. That would never blow the fuse. But now what we're going to do is plug that module in and do the same tests. Oh, and if you wonder what that noise in the background is, that's the battery power supply cycling on and off once in a while just to maintain battery voltage so we don't kill the battery on the car. Alright, so now I plugged that front interface module in, whatever the BMW calls it, started smoking. I want to show you what's going on here. I had the amp clamp hooked up, so let me back up. Well, you know what? Let's just do it. You can see it jumped above 5 amps. But let me do this thing live. Let me change my scaling to 10 amps. It should never go above right here. Right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to plug it in. Buddy, can you film for me? Get your finger in there. So watch it right here. So Evan's going to film. Hang on. Evan's going to film. I'm going to plug this connector in. Are you in the film, buddy? Can you see it?
Yeah. It's going to smoke.
Turn the key on. You see this? You can see the amperage stabilized there. And it's jumping up, jump down. Earlier when we did this thing started smoking bad. Right out of here. Smoking right there. See it smoking? Boom. So it's jumping way up. The amperage is jumping way up and down. Smoking bad, so I gotta unplug the fuse. Smoking real bad. But if I freeze this, start both the glare. Look, 5 amps is right there. That's the max, that thing. When it gets over that, that'll eventually blow. But it's only on for, it's only about 5 for, I don't know. I don't want that one, hang on. It's only about 5 for like roughly, you know, 1.2 seconds, right? Eventually that fuse is going to blow. It should never be above right there, and it went above that. Went above that. Should be down in the millivolts, right? So, of course, the wipers are on again because the fuse I pulled out, so it didn't blow. But that's the problem right there. It starts smoking when we plug that in. It's not an issue with the CD player itself. It's something going on in here, and all that, what's going on in the circuit board is causing all that corrosion on that side over there. Obviously that bolts to that right there. So this is absolutely 100% of the problem, is that module. And like I said, you can see it jumping above the 5 amps, which it should not be doing. And then we unplugged it, it went away. But you can see the smoke. I don't know if you can see it in the film or not. I can definitely smell it. So eventually it'll blow the fuse, and that's what's going on. So what we need to do, yeah. So what we need to do now is take this guy here and see if we need to, I don't even know if we can fix it inside the circuit board or we get a new one. If we get a new one, if we got to code it, program it, we have to look and go from there. All right, so we're gonna do one more test here, or a couple more tests. This will probably be part 1. Well, obviously it'll be part 1. There may be a part 2, depending on what we're gonna do. But this button here, talking to the customer, said it was always kind of stuck. I guess that's the seat warmer, defrost, or seat heater, whatever they call it. But it was all like this thing. See that? It's stuck. Like, obviously probably because it melted in there. But yeah, all those green crusties and stuff. So this is the absolute problem. We can take it apart, see if we can fix it. Maybe, maybe not. If not, we get a new one, program it, code it, whatever is required. Hopefully, at least we can take it apart and see what's kind of going on. Maybe fix it. Like I said, if not, we can get a new one. But what I'm going to do now, I got that unplugged. We'll also clean up all those green crusties on the CD player there. So this thing's working as advertised. It's not real warm. I mean, it's a little warm, but not excessively. So now, amp clamp on. I'm going to hit play. I'm on a 10 amp scale. Let me turn the light off again. There's this glare. I have a screen recorder I should start using on this scan tool, but buddy, hit the brake and start the car. Okay. And let me put this e-brake on just in case. So if you look, let me back it up a little bit because I missed it. Let's go to frame 2. I'm not worried about that's just noise. I can put a low pass filter. What I'm concerned with is this. We only got an amperage of 1.76 amps, 2 amps, well below the 5 when it's first started up. So when it's running, look at that. We're on a 10 amp scale, it's way down. We're only at, well, let's just do this. Let's go to a 2 millisecond division. Let's go to measured DC average. Yeah, look, 200 amps. 175, 200 amps. Well within the specifications. Way below. It's not even a half an amp. Of course, you're gonna have a higher amp draw when you first start any DC circuit up. Like we had 1.76 amps, which is well below the 5. So now, if you look, he had a cruise control malfunction for his multi-function switch. That's all gone. The wipers are all good. I can turn the wipers on. The courtesy wipe, they all work. That's just Evan's Dexcom for his diabetes stuff. Nothing with the car there. So yeah, multi-function switch is all good. No cruise switch. But I'd have to log back into BMW's website, which I'm not going to. It's another 30 bucks. But that fuse F10 5 amp powers like 4 or 5 different modules. All the same modules this car had issues with. So now what I'm going to do with that unplugged, so I'm going to do a full system scan again with this scan tool, clear out the codes and see what comes back. And we're going to have a lot less stuff. There'll be a couple things. Well, obviously we're going to have stuff with the HVAC because that's all unplugged and the pre-existing conditions with this car. But 100% this module interface unit is the actual issue. And we are drawing 160 some amps, which is perfect. Before, this thing would go way up above 5, go down, it was all over the place because of that other interface unit. If I plug it back in, it would do the same exact thing. So now let's hook up the VCMI and do a full system scan. Alright, so I got the VCMI plugged back in, key on, engine off, the display face unplugged, all the messages are good. So we're going to re-ID this vehicle, F36 chassis 428i 2015. Get rid of this glare. So let's download everything again and see what we got. Alright, so it's scanned. Of course, we're going to have a ton of codes. Actually, you know what? We're just going to start over here. We'll erase them all and then reread it. We're going to still have a bunch of codes because that front module's unplugged, obviously. But that F10 fuse should go away, along with some other stuff. So it's rescanning. Actually, every module passed. I guess that's just a front module interface. Yeah, everything. We'll rescan it again and I'll run it. But everything's passing. Because, well, that fuse is, well, it's powering everything up now. We're taking that bad circuit out of the equation. Yeah, everything is good except the IHKA, which is integrated heating and AC systems. Well, that is that module, right? Air conditioning control box does not respond. Well, that's because it ain't plugged in. Blower output stage does not respond. Stratification, short to circuit or battery or interruption. It would be interruption. Open circuit, ventilation temperature. Yeah. Of course, that's the only one. Let me start it again. So I started it. Of course, like I said, the blinkers work. Wipers are off. No messages. We'll rescan it here. So we do a fault scan again. Everyone's got to go fly his plane apparently. So we'll rescan it here. Nothing is fast. And the only codes we have, they're all green except this IHKA thing, right? You go in here. The integrated automatic heat and AC system, which is that head unit we just took off because it is bad, has a bunch of codes, which is expected because it's unplugged. Same ones. Yeah, K-line audio, air conditioning, blower, all that stuff, right? So that's absolutely the problem. That fuse fix everything else because it powers up those other modules, and now they're all responding and active. You have to have a good power, a good ground, CAN bus, K-line, depending on what network it uses. All that stuff's good now. You know, trouble codes were in that module, same stuff. I can go to live data, but obviously it's not going to have any because, well, I mean, it'll have data, but it's going to not be correct. You know, all the stuff's off because it ain't plugged in. So what we got to do now, I know I keep saying it, take this apart. If we can fix it, cool. If not, we get a new one. If it needs programming coding, I'll have to look in service data, see what's required in it. Maybe it's just plug and play, not sure. But that'll be probably another part of the series. This is part one. There may be a part two depending on what we find within that bad module. So that is it for now for this 2015 BMW 428i. Well, I went ahead and took this module apart. So that part's the CD player controls, which is why we had that code earlier in the video too, because it's unplugged. And then this part here plugs into this here, but this side is all sticky and this dial won't turn, or it's really hard to turn compared to this one for temperature control. Pop this whole module out of here, popped it out of there, and if you look at the back of this board here, it is nasty burnt. There's your processor, your MICU, it looks like, but this is all burnt bad. I don't even think this thing's worth fixing. We're just gonna have to get a new one. And if you take this board out, sorry, I'm trying to film into this. Look at that plastic's all melted in there. Look at the back of this, all melted. This thing, it ain't worth fixing. We just need to get a new one. So, yeah, and you can smell it. I know you guys can't, but it smells like burnt plastic and electrics because obviously it's burnt really, really bad. See all that? The back of the board. There's your 3 wires. There's 4 pins, but only 3 are used when the power comes in. I would imagine power ground signal. So this is what's blowing the fuse. So we're gonna have to get a new one of these, see if it needs to be programmed or coded, and go from there. All right, so like I said, it's pretty bad. I'm trying to zoom in here more. A bunch of capacitors, resistors, transistors are all burnt. It even melted that plastic there. But that was a sticker on the back of the unit. So now I got to source one of these parts somewhere. But it looks like something got spilled in here, like a soda or something. I don't know if that was the case or how moisture got in there, but obviously I think that's what happened, and that's what that corrosion in the car was. I know this car was in a, I think it was in a flood, and they restored it and all, but this would be more like a, and that was years ago. I think this would be more like like something spilled in there, because these buttons were always sticky, he said, and I noticed them sticky. Like this dial won't even turn because, well, it's all melted. Yeah. So there's another sticker there. I can QR scan that, so I'm gonna take a look. But now he's got to source parts and get a new one and see if it needs programming or coding or if it's plug and play, and go from there.